welcome back. It is week 7. This week we're going to be diving into Sweet Shells Stitch, another tongue twister stitch in the Winter Stitch Sampler Knit Along. It is week 7 and I'm excited to be over the hump and more than halfway done with this particular project. It's starting to take some shape. If you haven't worked any of the other stitches in the knit along yet, there's still time to get started. You can knit this stitch as a standalone, or you can check out the links below to go back to the beginning to get started. This project is worked in pieces, so if you wanted to jump in today, you can go for it. Before we get into it today, my name's Holly. This is my channel, at Yarns Link. I celebrate knitting, crochet, crafting, traveling, and all the things I love here. So if you'd like to get notifications of content, including the next stitch in the Winter Stitch Sampler Knit Along, you can go ahead and click the subscribe button. Sweet Shells is another pattern that looks good on both sides, even though it actually does have a right side. This is the right side. It's got shells worked in stockinette and a background of reverse stockinette. And this is the wrong side, so you can compare. It still looks good, it just looks a little bit different. So this is one of those that if you put it in backwards, no big deal. One thing I like about this pattern is it is simple. It is made up of 4 stitches, knits, purls, yarn overs, which you can see right here when I pull the shells apart. And in here, twice we're gonna do a knit 4 together, which is just the same as a knit 2 together, except we're using 4 stitches instead of 2. So if you can do those 4 stitches, knit, purl, yarn over, and knit 4 together, you can knit this piece. It is kind of a welcome change after the past few weeks, which have been a little bit more complicated and have had some very specific details. This one is just sort of a chill week. You'll probably commit at least part of it, if not the actual rhythm of the pattern to memory as you work it, and so you won't need to rely on your pen and paper so much or whatever it is you use to keep track. We are going to work 6 shells across, so that's 6 repeats. You'll need to have 5 or 7 markers ready, depending on how you plan to use your markers. If you're going to divide each of them, you'll need 5. And if you want one more between the edge stitches on either side and the first and last shell, then you'll need 7. You don't need markers for this, but I know some folks prefer to use them. Again, this is what the back side looks like. Okay, ready to get started? If you are working the panel today, I'll be working a swatch, but if you're working the panel, the first thing you're going to need to do is cast on 66 stitches. Because I am working the swatch, I'm going to cast on 16. Now this stitch pattern is a 10 plus 2 multiple over 10 rows. So normally we'd be casting on 12 to work a 10 plus 2, but because the edge stitches are so simple for this one, it's just 3 and 3, I decided to go ahead and make it 16. So every instruction I give you is going to match, except for repeating, is going to match what you're using in the actual panel. So that's going to be 3 edge stitches, 3 edge stitches, and the 10 in the center make 1 repeat, which I guess isn't a repeat at all because it's only done once. But you're going to have 6 of those. So 60 stitches in the center for you. You can mark every 10 and then 3 on each side. If you're working the swatch, go ahead and cast on those 16. You don't need to knit yet. But if you're working the panel, cast on 66 and you'll need to knit 3 rows. That's going to shore up the edges, the ends. Let me show you what those look like. Just with a couple of rows on either end of garter stitch, and that helps us get to our 97 rows that we need to make this piece fit. If you're working the swatch, hopefully you're all cast on. We'll get started. Like I said, we're going to start each row with the 3 edge stitches, and for this pattern, the first 3 and last 3 are always knit, and they're knit on both sides, so that makes it really easy. Next, we're going to start our repeat with a purl 1, a yarn over into a knit, so yarn over, knit 8, and then a yarn over into a purl. So yarn all the way around, purl, and we've come to our last 3 stitches, which we'll knit. Of course, we had 2 yarn overs in this row. We had no decreases in this row. So we've increased our stitch count by 2. If you're working the panel, you've increased it by 12. So we are going to see that grow, 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 and then down when we use the double knit 4 together, we do 2, 4, goodness. We do 2 knit 4 togethers in a row. When we get down to that, that's where we're going to decrease. So it's going to take us a few rows to get there. Whoa, tongue twister. Okay, here we are with row 2 on our wrong side. We know we're going to start with a knit 3. And our row instructions say knit 2, purl 8, knit 2 again, and we finish with that knit 3. So on the even row, we knitted the purls from the previous row, we worked the purls from the previous row, and we worked the yarn overs, so we incorporated those as stitches. So this is when we technically have increased our stitch count, because until we actually increase that stitch count and until we actually work the other side of the yarn over, we haven't increased our stitch count, because with some patterns you actually drop them. So you're not supposed to count them till the next row. So we'll count them here, plus 12. Okay, row 3. We'll start with a knit 3, as we always do. Purl 2. Remember on that row 1, we purled 1. Now we're purling 2 because we've got an extra stitch. Yarn over and knit 8, but it's exactly like row 1. Yarn over and purl 2. This is a symmetrical pattern. And we have 3 stitches left that we'll knit. Okay. And that's what we've got. Row 4, we'll start with a knit 3, and you can see the garter stitch edge is starting to show up already. On this row, we're going to knit 3, purl 8, knit 3. So we're knitting 3, and that does include our yarn over. We're going to purl these. These are the actual shell. So when we purl these 8, we're working the shell in what is stockinette stitch, but we're on the wrong side. And then we've got these left, 3 and 3, the last 3 we knit, and the last 3 we knit. So knit to the end. So after row 4, let me stretch it out, you can see a little bit of what's happening. So we're building our shell right here, and it's always in stockinette. We have our edge stitches here and here, and we have a reverse stockinette there. It is not showing up as well because it's next to that garter stitch edge, but when you're working the actual panel, it'll show really well. Okay, row 5, it's going to be a little familiar. Knit 3 to start. Each of these rows work up in the same manner, just with an increasing number of stitches. So this time we're going to purl 3 and then yarn over. Knit 8. Now we're going to yarn over and purl 3. and we'll end with a knit 3. So the only thing changing in the odd rows right now is the number of stitches we're working before and after the yarn overs. And that's because we're increasing every row. Okay. Flip it for row 6. Start with a knit 3. And then we're gonna purl 4 now. Yes. 1, 2, oh, nope, sorry, missed my stitches in the beginning. Sorry, we're gonna knit 4, not purl 4. Knit 3 for the edge stitch, knit 4, and then purl 8. I should have been watching my stitches instead of getting lost in the instructions, and it would have been obvious. Purl 8 center stitches, then we're gonna knit 4 again. We'll knit 4 again. And end with our knit 3. Okay. Woo. Okay, hopefully you were following along on screen with the instructions rather than letting me get you off track with the differences there. All right, row 7, this is where we're gonna use our special stitch, and we'll actually be able to see our sweet shells show up. We are going to start with a knit 3. All right, we are going to purl 4. We're gonna try. Feel like every time we do a different week, I lose a stitch somewhere. I can't find it. Can't get my yarn over the needle. Okay, this is where we come to our special stitch. So if you were to knit 2 together right now, you'd do this, and then pull the yarn through. We're going to be knitting 4 together, okay? So we're gonna come in all 4. It's a little fiddly, and it's gonna be real fiddly in slow motion. Come in all 4, wrap, and pull through. And so what you've got is a real cinch right there because it's so many. We're gonna do that one more time. Woo. Got it, okay. So we've got 2 now. Let's work to the end of the row and see what that looks like. Purl 4 and then knit 3. Okay, so at the end of the row, this is what it looks like. I'll spread it out so you can see that even better. These are the 2 knit 4 togethers. It looks like they both slant the same way. They kind of do. It doesn't really matter because once you work up the fabric, it's all going to kind of disappear in there and they're going to just look lovely. The next row, oh, and let's do our stitch count. 5, 10, we're back at 16. So you should be back to where you were after this purl 4 together twice. Your stitch count should be back to either 16 or 66. Whew, okay. The last 3 rows are worked in stockinette, which makes them super easy, but you're gonna keep that garter stitch border. So for row 8, you're going to knit 3 and then just knit straight across. I mean, I guess I should say they're worked in reverse stockinette, right? Since this is the wrong side. Row 8, you're just gonna knit. There you go, that's all I need to say. Row 9, we're gonna start with 3 knit, but then we're gonna purl across to maintain that reverse stockinette background. So knit 3, purl all the way across, which is either going to be 10 or 60 stitches, depending on whether you're doing the panel or the swatch, or I guess the swatch or the panel, I should say them in the right order. 10 for the swatch, 60 for the panel. You can see the shell starting to bunch up, getting caught in the tension of the rows that we're working now. And then we'll knit the last 3. And row 10, which is the final row of the repeat, and is a wrong side row, is all knit. It's kind of nice to have the the last few of them just kind of, I don't want to say mindless knitting, but maybe intuitive knitting or muscle memory knitting, something you don't have to look at a pattern for and check on as you work. Row 10 is complete. Just knit straight across. This is what it looks like from the wrong side, kind of concave. And then here's your shell, popping out on the right side on the background of reverse stockinette. That was 10 rows. You're gonna work these 10 rows 9 times for a total of 90 rows. So you will have 9 times 6, 54. You'll have 54 shells by the time you're done. So you'll work them a total of 9 times if you're doing the panel. That'll give you 90 rows and repeats, but you already did 3 of garter stitch, so you'll be up to 93. So after your last repeat, all the way across and all the way down, you do 4 more rows of garter stitch and bind off, and you'll be at 97. And that will give you your panel. As always, the written pattern is a link below. And that is it for me today. That was an easy one. It was kind of short, right? I will see you next week. As always, if you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up and please click subscribe so you can figure out what we're doing next week before anybody else does. See you then. Bye.